Our family motto has been be more engaging than the algorithm, right? Because we believe that it's not enough to say no to devices. You have to say yes to something better. And part of that is recognizing that there are benefits and also limitations to technology.
Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. My guest today did a brave thing when she recognized the grip technology was having on her family. She opted out. Welcome to Healthy Screen Habits, Erin Loechner.
Thank you, Hillary. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you about this.
Same. So, Erin, you were kind of a blogger before blogging was a verb. And you had followers that numbered in more than the six figures range. And you even had a contract with HGTV.com that featured like web personalities. You did a 2-year renovation show. I'm giving all this background because it would seem that online life was serving you well. And yet you opted to walk away from it all. So it begs the question, what happened?
That's a great question. I wish I had this, really captivating, grabbing moment, right? This just absolute before and after. And yet I think probably the shift from my work in influencing to my work not influencing, right? Being just completely I've opted out of social media. I am no longer online in many, many ways. The big shift for me happened when I had my daughter. She is 12 now. And I had this realization pretty early on that if I'm going to be continuing this work and if I want to continue doing it well in kind of the framework of what we know to be true of so what performs well online, right? I'm going to be parenting with my phone in my hand a lot more than I want to. And I also knew from all of my work in Silicon Valley, my husband worked in Apple's ad agency. I mean, we were in it. We were in the boardrooms, we were in the conferences. I was an early beta tester for Pinterest. I was in it. And I knew, oh, this algorithm, it's completely out of our control. We don't know where it leads. And it's not any place that I want my children to be. And so I have always been a firm believer that if you're not excited about the future, can you maybe come alongside and create a future you are excited about? And I wanted to be able to pass along to my child, hey, the world is going to tell you that social media is inevitable, that it is just an absolute integral part of your life, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm going to show you why. And so I decided I was going to go first. I'm going to give it a go and I'm going to try to see if I can live a vibrant, happy, and engaged life without social media. And I can and I have. And we're taking our kids along for the ride.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting to hear what paths brought people to what's now being termed as digital wellness, but what used to just be the way people lived, you know?
Mm. Yes.
So, so you have a brand new book that dropped yesterday called The Opt Out Family: How to Give Your Kids What Technology Can't. And can you explain the term opt out? It's sort of self-explanatory, but I would like to, from the creator, could you explain?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that because I think it can be a very provocative term that sort of makes you assume that it's all or nothing. And it's not. There is a spectrum to opting out. And truly, I created the narrative simply because I wanted to know where is the book or where is the movement for people who are no longer willing to tiptoe around the subject, right? For the people that are just saying, hey, we've had enough. We've read the research. We know where this is leading. We don't want our kids involved in personal devices. So what is there for us? And that's what being an opt-out family could be, but it could also mean just someone that pauses and reassesses at every point when you are faced with the decision of, hey, do I sign the waiver for facial recognition at summer camp, right? Or do I sign up for the band app to keep in touch with this social circle or with this club or this sport? Um, do I kind of move along this path that sort of progresses us into more technology? Or do I pause and ask myself, is there another option here? Is there a better option here? It's simply a family that says, yes, technology may be the future, but is this the future that we want? And then you are willing to kind of get really creative within those limitations and carve a new path. That's an
Yeah.
opt out family.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. At Healthy Screen Habits, we are pro intentional use of tech.
Mm,
So it sounds like we hold hands a lot with that, where we are not anti-tech. We just want tech to stay in its lane. So,
yes.
and to do that, it requires just active constant maintenance and monitoring of our own use, right?
Mm,
I mean, that's the tricky thing.
yes.
So I was one of the fortunate ones to get a sneak peek at your book before it dropped, and thank you for that. and and you spend the first part of your book talking about algorithms, which it makes sense that you kind of were aware of algorithms before the general public was. And I love the way how you explain not only how they function, but you also say something that I'd like to hear more about. It happens to be on page 23 if you need a reference. But I love this quote. You say, as our world gets smaller, so too do our lives. And
Mm.
what does that mean?
Well, in reference to the algorithm, certainly our family motto has been from the get go be more engaging than the algorithm, right? Because we believe that it's not enough to say no to devices. You have to say yes to something better. And part of that is recognizing that there are benefits and also limitations to technology. And so, one of those big limitations I see often, and I certainly witnessed after I left social media myself, was we all know now of confirmation bias. We know of filter bubbles. We know that the algorithm is designed to say, hey, if you like this, you'll probably like this. You'll probably like this and more of this and more of this, because the goal is time on device, right? To keep you on your phone a little longer. And so when our lives become sort of limited by select information that we're not even seeking out necessarily, but is being fed to us, our lives get smaller. We lose the ability or the curiosity to kind of look beyond what is fed or what is available on the table. Right, our table is set with a very select certain set of information. And one thing that I noticed after I left social media was, I don't know if anyone else has had this experience, but there was kind of a ticker tape running in my head when I was speaking with people. This was when I was still on social media, where I knew who they voted for. I knew what they posted about. I knew where they shopped. I knew what podcasts they listened to, because it was all available. It was all online. They were talking about it all the time. And after I left and I didn't have that information anymore, it was a bit like there was some ambiguity there. There was some uncertainty. I didn't quite know exactly what to talk about because I didn't know what was happening in their life. And what happened was I just defaulted to, you're a human being, I'm a human being. Let's find some common ground together. In the absence of knowing anything about each other's lives, in the absence of those snap judgments or those sort of preconceived notions that we carry about each other, I didn't have any of that. It was this perfectly clean slate of, you're a person and I'm a person. And here we are in the dentist waiting room. Let's have a conversation. And it was really a beautiful, freeing thing that happened, that I recognized my life did get a lot larger. Um,
Yeah.
and my outlook and my perspective became more diverse, which is funny because I think we tell ourselves that the world we've created online in this digital capacity really does invite more front row seats to what the world is experiencing. But through confirmation and filter bubbles, it can have the adverse effect as well, where we just truly don't see beyond what we're fed.
Right, right. Becoming that whole echo chamber effect.
Yes.
Yeah. No, and I deeply value curiosity. I deeply value curiosity and creativity, and I think that when you spend time offline, it kind of tickles that curiosity in a way that is different from just the information seeking that happens when you're online. When you're online, you may fall down a rabbit hole, but you're kind of, that curiosity is kind of being driven. But I like how you're talking about how finding commonality through conversation and just being openly, genuinely curious about
Mm.
somebody else and what they're doing, like, what brings them to the flower section at the grocery store today, or you know.
Yeah, of course. And I think why you see that, why you recognize that there is a difference between curiosity online and offline, because curiosity has an inherent risk to it, right? Curiosity killed the cat. There's a reason. It is there is ambiguity and uncertainty involved in it in a way that when we're just searching for information online, there's no risk involved. We don't really, we're just kind of knowledge seeking rather than truly learning in a way that invites a little bit of risk, a little bit of challenge, a little discomfort. And those are all really good things and really valuable things when we need to learn something new.
When we come back, we're going to talk about how opting out of technology can allow families more time to opt in to the rest of their lives. Did you know anyone in a U.S. state, territory, or tribe who needs suicide or mental health related crisis support, or who has a loved one in crisis, can connect with a trained counselor by calling or texting 988. 988 is the easy to remember number that reaches what is commonly referred to as the Lifeline, a network of more than 200 state and local call centers funded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Formerly known as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the full name has changed to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. 988. It's the 911 for mental health. I'm speaking with Erin Loechner, a former social media influencer who walked away from a million fans to live a low-tech lifestyle and is now teaching others how to do the same. As the founder of the global tech-free movement, the Opt-Out Family, Erin has authored a book that dropped yesterday titled The Opt-Out Family: How to Give Your Kids What Technology Can't. This book is written in a way that I found to be part guide, part interactive, and best of all, it's written in Erin's friendly, encouraging voice. So, Erin, you have really seen sort of perks and pitfalls of social media. If people are looking to curb their own usage, where do you recommend they start? What did you do?
Mm. You know what, Hillary? The most effective transition I made in my sort of journey toward low tech, because it's a lifelong journey. I think we're constantly shifting. But I found that parental controls work just as well on parents as they do on children. And so I have done the flip phone, I have done the hybrid phone. Where I have landed in my best case scenario is I have a smartphone with all of the parental controls turned on. So it doesn't give me internet access. It doesn't give me a camera. It doesn't give me, I do have maps, I will say. So I have maps, I have text messages, and I have a phone. And what happened after that shift was I found that if I wanted to go check my email, or I wanted to get something done or order something for the kids, whatever I needed at the time, I could do it in a space that was reserved for the mental capacity it took to do those things, right? There was no more of those couple minutes, quick check in here and this and this and this. There was not the multitasking happening or the shifting of goals that were happening back and forth all day. And it really freed my brain space to be allowed to just get on the desktop computer that we all share as a family and get the thing done there out in the open when there was time, when it was a good time for me and I was earmarked for productivity, right? The other thing that I did was I removed my wallpaper and the phone lock setting, and I just made it black. So there was no cute beach scene, no family photo. And what that did, Hillary, was it became a phone, not my phone. And it made all the difference for me because all of a sudden it was just there on the counter. It was absolutely useless for anything fun, right? You talk about not making it this, making technology a tool, right? And not this sort of entertainment outlet. It became a tool. It put it back in its rightful place. And now I find myself forgetting it on the counter all the time because if I'm going to the grocery store, somebody else will have a phone. I don't need mine. Or if I'm on a bike ride, I don't need a phone at all. I certainly don't need my phone. And so that really made a big shift. So we have a video on optoutfamily.com that shows people how to do both of those things, just depersonalizing your phone and then putting the parental controls on yourself. I have found it to be so valuable.
I I'm just I mean I've never heard of that tip. And I hear a lot of tips, okay? I get a lot of hacks. But I love this depersonalization because as you're talking, what I'm realizing is you are so right. In the wallpaper or the photos that change, like those essentially trigger a little dopamine hit, don't they?
Yes.
And dopamine is what's going to bring us back. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that exists in within our body in a variety of places, but it's associated with the pleasure pathway, but it actually also is kind of the thing that makes us desire things. And I think we have all had that experience, certainly, of cleaning out your closet or finding the old box of photographs. And next thing you know, it's 2 hours later. And you're still
Mm.
you're flipping through the photographs, and essentially that is what my phone does. And you are enlightening me because I have never drawn that comparison before. And you're absolutely right. I am going to try that. I am very excited.
You should. And it's not an accident. And I mean, Silicon Valley knows that, oh, if we get people to take ownership over this product, I mean, how many times have we just in this conversation said my phone and
Yes.
instead of a phone? And it's a big shift when you can finally realize that, oh, I see, that was on purpose and it worked.
Yes, yes. So speaking about that kind of intentionality, and I feel like I'm always like, you always feel like you've been duped a little when you hear like, oh, they figured me out. Of course they figured you out, Hillary. It's like the top brains in the country, programming these things. But I do have to say that one of the things that I recognized very early on was that Facebook was not a healthy space for me. I did not like the thoughts I was thinking about my friends when I was looking at their projected lives. Like, I mean, I just found myself really falling down the jealousy drain. And I don't want to think that way about people who I know and love. So I just stopped.
Mm.
I pulled myself off of Facebook and that was very early on. It must have been, actually, I know when it was. It was 2009. And I was fine not being on social media at all. My friends knew I wasn't. And I was kind of like the weird one who had to be caught up on things because I didn't know that your son had made the All-Stars team, or I didn't know, but in that way I kind of, I thought maybe I was appealing and quirky. So, so at any rate, it just worked for me. And then middle school hit for my son, and I started missing things left and right. And I could not figure out, like, how did everybody know when the orchestra performances were happening or when picture day was or anything else? And then I'd ask people, like, how did you know this was happening? I didn't get anything. And it was because it was all posted online. And then when he
Mm.
entered, with social media feeds, and then when he entered high school, it was even more compounded. And so I had to make the decision. I was feeling like I was burdensome to some of my friends who were, continually having to update Hillary because she is not on social media. So this is all stemming to a question. Okay, I promise. So so I did make the decision to go back online, but my question to you is this. So how do you recommend parents who don't want to be on social media maintain the connection with school announcements? How,
Mm.
like, I mean, because so many teachers, and I understand, the coaches, the band instructors, so I understand why it is so helpful to them, but if you don't want to be on social media as a family or as a parent, what do we do, Erin?
Yes, yes. I'm so glad you asked that question too, because you're right. I think that is kind of the gateway for a lot of parents' experience. They sort of make this personal revolutionary decision to, I would like to not be involved in this space. It's not good for me. And then what brings them back is we'll do anything for our kids. You're right. So one thing that I found that was really helpful is I have a series of scripts, and this is also available on the website, but scripts for clubs, organizations, teachers, at school administrators, principals, explaining some of the pitfalls that come with relaying information on these platforms, right? Just giving them enough information that they need to be able to make an educated decision. And then I will offer, so how can I help? Because here's the thing. We have provided our children with desktop computers. So really, if we've got an email address, we can be in the loop. But how can I help you coordinate that? I don't want to put any extra work on your plate. I recognize that you're already leading a team or coaching an organization or throwing a theater performance, whatever. Can I sign up to just be some sort of communications coordinator where I will take all of the information? You can give me all of your important dates, and I will send out a mass email to whoever has opted out, just so that parents have the option, right? Of not. The thing is, now with Facebook, we don't even see half of the things because the algorithm is no
Right.
longer chronological. It's all interest based, and it's based on sort of what's eliciting the strongest reaction from you, which is probably not Bison Day at the county fair. So I think just being
That's
sort
oddly specific.
I know. I know. I have a whole list of things that I've missed. And yet I have found that to be a very successful strategy for parents is just even setting up a meeting. There's just saying, "Hey, we've opted out of social media. How can my kid be in the loop anyway? And how can I help make that happen for them?" Recognizing that you're doing a whole slew of other things as well. Um, and every single time that I've made that offer, it has been met with thank you. And that would be really helpful. We have a couple other people on the team that also don't do social media. And what a win, Hillary, to then be in touch with those parents and form some sort of opt out circle yourself. So I think that's a great way to do it. I really do.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that you provide that tool of having those scripts. So, but yeah, fantastic. So, I can honestly say people are probably now convinced. They want to be an opt-out family, or at least a tech light family. So, let's talk about some concrete ways they can move forward with this in their home. We've kind of talked about like the outer circles of the family. Let's move into the house. And you have this concept called strewing that I love. And can you talk about strewing?
Yes, of course. And I love talking about things we could do in our house because that's the sphere we have the most control and influence over. And I think that's really going to be key in sort of creating a home environment where we don't want to escape from on our phones, right? So strewing is it's an early educational concept. Both of my parents are public school teachers, so there's a lot of this sort of love of learning built in here. And one of the things that we have done in our home from the get-go is just sort of foster this environment of, like you said, curiosity and discovery. And so strewing is essentially you are just laying out objects throughout your home that might invite delight, that might invite an experience. It's the same thing as sort of leaving a puzzle that's just been started on the living room coffee table. I don't know anyone that can walk past that without trying to find a piece and fill it in along the way. It is the same as going to the library and just displaying some books cover side out on the fireplace hearth, or just thinking of kind of looking at your home in the eyes of your children and asking yourself, is there anything that they can discover here today? Is there anything new for them, anything delightful for them, anything engaging for them? and capitalizing on those moments, because that's what the algorithm does, Hillary. Like that's what the algorithm is, such a built-in vehicle for discovery. And every single social platform you'll go to, they have this down to a science. TikTok has removed all starting cues. So essentially, you just pop on the app and you are met with discovery upon discovery. And they're all things that will delight you or make you laugh or that you'll think are fun. And we can make our homes the same way in very simple methods that don't require us being, a cruise director, but instead just, hey, it's if we're blowing up balloons in our kitchen, our kid's going to say, "What's the occasion?" Or if we're putting cookies in the oven, they're going to smell and come in and ask, "What's for dinner and when's it happening? What's the dessert for?" Or putting a fire on and just having some books scattered and just creating those moments so that there is room for connection. And there isn't really something to kind of be listless about or think there's got to be something more exciting to do online than this, right? That's
Yeah,
the goal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and I know I brought up the topic of going through boxes of photos because clearly I'm cleaning stuff out in my house. But it's funny. I had not realized how interested my kids would be in our wedding photos. So just putting your
Mm,
wedding album out invites that whole dialogue of, who is this? And it's such a beautiful way for long-term family story building as well, because many of the people, honestly, who were at my wedding, they're related to, but are no longer with us,
mm.
So I love that strewing idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you also have this secret weapon, which is kind of, I think holds hands with strewing. You borrowed social media's playbook, stating the way in is the way out, using the element of surprise.
Mm.
And how does that work? Why is surprise act as such a, I don't know, such an igniter? Why does that work?
I think the same reason it works for adults, to be honest. I mean, so much of life is the routine and the mundane. And I think those are all really beautiful. I firmly believe in structure for children. And yet having that element of surprise for them to rely on, and just in terms of, hey, this isn't just your average Tuesday, right? I spoke with a mom who her daughter was just feeling just listless, a little down. This is a child that isn't even on social media. There were no sort of mental health areas to pursue or to really kind of deconstruct. It was just, I'm just feeling kind of, I don't really know, and just kind of gloomy, like something's just feeling kind of heavy, kind of weighty. And so the mom kind of sat with it for a little bit. And then that night, she woke her daughter up for an ice cream sundae at midnight. And she thought, let's have a moment here. Let's just bring in some surprise. This isn't your birthday. This isn't something that you're expecting. This is just out of the blue. And you know what, Hillary, for the next, gosh, she rode that wave for 4 weeks. I mean, it was just, okay, I just needed a little jolt. I needed a little kick in the pants, a little, just something to look forward to. We all need it. And we all need
Yeah.
something, just a shred of delight to bring into our life. And that's what our kids can seek offline rather than online, in a safer and healthier way.
Right. And I think that element of surprise has a higher sticking level for memory building as well.
Yes.
So it'll be that remember when we did that. And so I like you. I come from a background of education and I do believe in structure and routine and all of the comforting things that come with that. But surprise is very powerful. So I
Mm.
love that. When we come back, I'm going to ask Erin Loechner for her healthy screen habit. We love what we do, and we wouldn't be able to do it without the generous donations provided by our listeners and followers. We want to extend special thanks to the Doctors Petty for their unwavering support of the podcast and organization. If you'd like to make a difference and contribute to the education and empowerment of families building their healthiest screen habits, please go to healthyscreenhabits.org, find the Take Action tab, and scroll down and click the donate button. 100% of your donation will be used to spread awareness and bring families the tools they need to develop healthy screen habits. I'm speaking with Erin Loechner, founder of the Opt-Out Family and author of the book, The Opt-Out Family: How to Give Your Kids What Technology Can't. She's a mom of 3 and a lover of fresh tortillas. I discovered that. So, Erin, on every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I ask each guest for a healthy screen habit, which is a tip or takeaway that listeners can put into practice in their own home. What's yours?
So my tip is a bit of a non-traditional one, I will say, but we've used it with our kids from the get-go. And it's simply that the next time that you're tempted to use Siri to answer a question or satisfy a curiosity, ask Siri, Siri, someone I really idolize. And not only will you be expanding your community by reaching out to someone offline, but you will just receive this deeper, more contextual, more personalized answer, and you can grow in wisdom rather than knowledge.
Great. Great. I love it. As always, you can find a complete transcript of this show, as well as a link to purchase the book we've been talking about, which dropped yesterday. Believe me, we have only scratched the very top of the surface of all the great tips and a ton of research inside of it. You do this by visiting the show notes for this episode by going to healthyscreenhabits.org, click the podcast button, and find this episode. Erin, thank you so much for being here today, for being that courageous disruptor that isn't satisfied with the status quo. It's not always easy being the mom that stands up and states that this is a screen-free house or play date, and I'm grateful you are.
Thank you, Hillary. Thank you so much.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.